September 17th, 1862. Before the sun fully rose over western Maryland, thousands of American soldiers, farm boys, immigrants, clerks, laborers, stood silently in cornfields, woods, and along a quiet creek called Antietam. By sunset, over 23,000 of them would be dead, wounded, or missing. It remains the bloodiest single day in American military history. But Antietam was more than just carnage. That one day stopped a Confederate invasion of the North, gave Abraham Lincoln the moment he needed to change the war forever, turned the Civil War from a fight to preserve the Union into a moral crusade against slavery. This is the story of Antietam, the battle that changed America. By the summer of 1862, the American Civil War was already over a year old. What many had expected to be a short, decisive conflict had turned into a brutal, grinding war. The Union's problem. The Union had more soldiers, more factories, more railroads, more money, but it lacked confidence and decisive leadership. Union armies had suffered humiliating defeats, especially in the Eastern Theater. The rise of Robert E. Lee. Enter General Robert E. Lee, commander of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. In just a few months, Lee defeated Union forces during the 7 Days battles, crushed them again at Second Bull Run. By September 1862, Lee believed the moment had come to do the unthinkable. Lee's bold gamble. Lee decided to invade the North. His goals: relieve war-torn Virginia, gather supplies from northern farms, encourage Maryland to join the Confederacy, defeat the Union on northern soil, convince Britain and France to recognize the Confederacy. If Lee succeeded, the war might end on Confederate terms. The lost order that changed everything. As Lee marched into Maryland, he made a critical mistake. Special Order 191. Lee divided his army, a dangerous move in enemy territory. He outlined his entire plan in a document called Special Order 191. Then, fate intervened. The discovery. On September 13th, Union soldiers found a piece of paper wrapped around cigars in a field near Frederick, Maryland. It was Lee's lost order. For the first time, Union Commander General McClellan knew where Lee's army was, how it was divided, how vulnerable it was. President Lincoln later said, "Here is a paper with which if I cannot whip Bobby Lee, I will be willing to go home." But McClellan hesitated. Again. By September 16th, both armies converged near Sharpsburg, Maryland. The Antietam Creek flowed between them. Lee had fewer than 40,000 men. McClellan had over 75,000. Despite the odds, Lee chose to stand and fight. The night before battle. Soldiers slept, or tried to. Some wrote final letters. Others prayed. Many sensed they might not survive the morning. At first light on September 17, Union General Joseph Hooker launched the opening attack. The target, a simple cornfield owned by David Miller. 6 hours of hell. That cornfield changed hands again and again. Men fired at point-blank range. Regiments were shattered in minutes. The corn was cut down, not by harvesters, but by bullets. A soldier later said, "Every stalk was cut as closely as with a knife." By mid-morning, over 8,000 men were casualties. Entire units ceased to exist, yet still neither side broke. As fighting raged in the North, Union forces attacked the Confederate center. They advanced toward a sunken farm road. The killing ground. Confederate soldiers used the road as a trench. Wave after wave of Union troops charged, bodies piled up so high that men used them as cover. Eventually, the road ran red with blood. It would forever be known as Bloody Lane. More than 5,000 men fell here alone. A Confederate soldier later said, "The dead lay in heaps as corn before the reaper." In the South, Union General Ambrose Burnside faced a narrow stone bridge. Only a few hundred Confederates defended it, yet Burnside delayed for hours. The cost of hesitation. Men fell into the creek, the water filled with blood. Finally, in the afternoon, Union troops crossed the bridge, but by then, Confederate reinforcements arrived just in time. The opportunity to destroy Lee's army slipped away. By evening, the fighting stopped. Neither side had achieved a clear battlefield victory, but the ground told another story. The numbers. Union casualties, 12,400. Confederate casualties, 10,300. Over 23,000 Americans killed, wounded, or missing in one day. Lee withdrew the next night. The invasion of the North was over. Militarily, Antietam was a draw. Strategically, it was a Union victory. The Emancipation Proclamation. President Abraham Lincoln had been waiting. 5 days later, he issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. The war now had a new purpose, not just preserving the Union, but ending slavery. This ensured Britain and France would not support the Confederacy. Enslaved people would flee to Union lines. The Civil War became a fight for human freedom. For the first time, Americans saw war as it truly was. Photographer Alexander Gardner captured the dead at Antietam. Displayed in New York, the images stunned the public. A newspaper wrote, "Mr. Gardner has brought home to us the terrible reality and earnestness of war." The nation could no longer look away. Antietam shaped America's future. Because of that day, slavery was doomed. The Union survived. America's moral direction changed forever. The fields are quiet now, but the echoes remain. Antietam reminds us, freedom was paid for in blood. They were Americans. They fought each other. They died on the same soil. Antietam was not just the deadliest day, it was the day America chose what it would become. If you want more deep cinematic stories from American history, subscribe and stay with us.